In this video, we're going to discuss the importance of taking personal responsibility as an athlete. Hey there, I'm Eli Straw, mental performance coach and the founder of SuccessStartsWithin.com. Now, I got the idea for this video when I was talking to an athlete just yesterday about the idea of taking responsibility for things within their game. Now, the example that he and I were going over was getting benched and trying to take responsibility for getting back out there on the court. Now, the reason that this is so important, and the reason we're going to see it kind of trickle into a lot of different areas of your game physically and then especially of your mental game, is because most of your success as an athlete and most of the things that happen out there in the game or in practice are honestly out of your control, right? So playing time is a prime example of something that is out of your control. You can't fully control playing time as an athlete. That's up to your coach, it's up to the organization, and so it's something that we want to control but we cannot fully control. Now, if I'm talking about playing time being something that we can't fully control, then how am I equally telling this athlete to take responsibility for getting back out there on the court? Well, in this case, it all has to do with what they are focusing on and what they're spending their attention and spending their energy on. So if we recognize, which we do, we recognize that playing time is not something that's fully within our control. So then we start wishing that coach would play us more. We start blaming coach for not playing us. We start to look at our other teammates who are getting more playing time than us, and we start wishing that we were them, and we were wishing that maybe they would even mess up because we want to get playing time over them. Number one, none of that is a productive way of thinking. And number two, it's not actually doing anything to get you back out there on the field, on the court, or in the lineup. The reason that I was talking to this athlete about taking responsibility was so that he felt as though he could take action, controllable action, toward the achievement of his goal, which was to get back out there and to get more playing time. That's what we want to be doing when we're talking about this personal responsibility. It's all about what actions can I take to help myself get back out there and to gain more playing time, specifically in this playing time example. And so he and I were then going over how he has the responsibility to examine his game objectively and think about what he needs to work on. And then to think, okay, what can I do during practice today to improve? And then next time he's in the game, he wants to take responsibility for being able to go out there and be effective so he can show coach that he deserves to be out there more. Once he takes personal responsibility, just like once you take it in terms of this playing time idea, right, or getting into the lineup more, what that does is it gives you this sense of power, right? Because you feel as though you have more control over the situation than you originally thought because you are taking responsibility for changing the situation. That doesn't mean you fully can control changing the situation, but you are at least giving your attention to what will help you change the situation. And it's this idea of giving yourself personal power that is really the reason that I love talking about responsibility so much, because I also talk about taking responsibility for our mental game a lot. So another example of this is anxiety. When we're getting ready to start a game, or whether we're even feeling anxious starting practice, it's really easy to blame other people for our anxiety, or even to blame the circumstances or the situation for our anxiety. For example, when I was in college, I had this coach that made me very anxious, or at least I thought he made me really anxious. So I blamed him a lot, and I blamed his coaching style. I blamed the way that he interacted with me, and I blamed him a lot for my anxiety. When he wasn't at practice, so if he was on a recruiting trip, for example, I felt much calmer, I felt much more confident, and I ended up having a better practice because he wasn't there. The unfortunate thing was, he was my coach. So because I was putting this responsibility on him for causing my anxiety, I wasn't really in a position to improve. And it wasn't until I accepted full responsibility for the anxiety I was feeling that I started making progress. So this is something that I talk to all athletes about when I'm working with them in one-on-one coaching when we're working on anxiety. I talk to them about the importance of accepting full responsibility for the anxiety they are feeling. Now, why would we want to do this? Because if we're playing anxious, feeling a lot of anxiety when we perform, it's not exactly exciting to think about, oh, this is my fault. I have responsibility, or it's my responsibility for the fact that I'm feeling this way. Why would we want to do that? The main reason that it's important to do this is because when it's our responsibility, right? So we are responsible for feeling a certain way. we are equally responsible for changing it. If it's my coach's fault, and if my coach is the main reason why I feel anxious, then something outside of myself has to change in order for me to change. But we have to make sure that it is our fault, it's our responsibility, so that the power to change is within ourselves. And that brings me back to that idea of personal power. As soon as athletes accept full responsibility for the anxiety they are experiencing, they realize that they have the power to change it. So then we are focusing on things that actually work to change how anxious we are when we play. And this goes into things like changing our thought process, making sure we are fully prepared, making sure we're using breathing exercises, using visualization, and much more. But once we accept responsibility for the way we are feeling, whether it's anxiety or even, self-doubt or fear, we recognize and accept that if it's our responsibility for the way we feel, right? So if we are responsible for the way we feel, we're also responsible for changing it. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing to realize as an athlete, because just like playing time, you realize that there are things that you can do and there are steps you can take and actions that you can be taking to change the way you're feeling and change the way you're playing, which means it's beneficial for us to accept this responsibility, even if it feels as though we are, not very excited in the beginning to accept this responsibility. So I just wanted to make this episode for you on this topic of responsibility to kind of emphasize the idea that no matter if it's playing time, no matter if it's performing better during the game, no matter if it is feeling less anxious or feeling less fear, feeling more confident, whatever it ends up being within your game, you want to make sure that you take responsibility for it. That doesn't mean you need to blame yourself and criticize yourself if things aren't going well, right? Through that whole explanation, I never once said you need to criticize and condemn yourself for the fact that you are feeling anxious. Nor did I say that athlete needs to criticize himself for the fact that he's benched. That's not what I'm saying when I'm saying take responsibility for it. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about the fact that when we take responsibility, we give ourselves the power to change. Because if we are responsible for something, even if we're not fully in control of the result, it means that we have the power to do something and to take action and to make a change. So I really encourage you to take full responsibility for the things that are happening to you within your game, whether it's your performance, whether it's playing time, or whether it is the mental state that you're in. You're not recognizing that you are fully in control of these things because we know that we are not fully in control of the result of our game, playing time, and that sort of stuff. But we do have the responsibility to put ourselves in the best position to succeed, to play our best during practice, to improve, and to be in a good mental state when we play. If you have any questions about this video, please let me know in the comments below. And if you're interested in any of the sports psychology programs I have available, I've put links to those in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do.